Greetings, superior beings. Greetings, supreme being. Welcome to Universal Peace Tube, the channel on YouTube to watch, to promote universal peace, the creation of a perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally, and control of the factors that control aging instead of spending another trillion on nuclear weapons. I've reviewed the New York Times article and President Trump's speech about this, and I cannot support creating more nuclear weapons and revising nuclear weapons, spending a trillion on that instead of on the control of the factors that control aging. And the fake trip to Mars of the NASA Freemasons paid for with your tax money to depopulate the Earth and create a crisis big enough to impose their satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government upon the people of planet Earth, which is their stated goal. The Jesuits and Masons are doing this, and more about it in my previous broadcast. Of course, today's broadcast is, of course, Iran says nuclear deal is worst ever and it's Trump's fault. USA Today article review. This original thumbnail image is from another website. You can find it if you Google Trump World War III. And whether they're gonna do more sanctions or attack Iran. Trump said Iran is not in compliance. It's best to be prepared with a radiological water filter and storable food. Also for other possible nuclear calamities with all these nuclear weapons of self-destruction and nuclear power plants surrounding us all. And my internet connection seems to be very slow, and they do that with wireless energy probably. But I already opened the other articles. This is the article it's about, the USA Today article. Iran says nuclear deal is worst ever and it's Trump's fault, by Kim Helmgaard, published 22nd of February 2018, and today happens to be the 26th of February already, so it's about 4 days ago. Here we see the news. It's still in the news in the Google selection. When you search on Iran nuclear deal, this is the article over here. And I've covered more articles that also explore the idea of a possible world war over Iran instead of universal peace. So it's done by these Jesuit pedophiles that have tortured my mother to death, famous for the pedophilia and torturing 50 million innocent people to death in their Inquisition. And they also did Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the Jesuit Holocaust, because their goal is that Neuordnung of Adolf Hitler, the Third Reich, a global government, also known as New World Order. They've started using New World Order, global government, because New World Order had too many negative connotations. And another idea I had is to look at these articles, to review them basically, but not to read them with the speech engine. They're blocking USA Today, the article that I just showed you. So it's all sabotaged with the neural network. And the other one was this about Ivanka Trump. They don't let me scroll. It's just they do it via Waterfox, it seems. Perhaps it's hacked. So all this together is supposedly 99% CPU, and I think that could be true. So it just takes a while before it responds. I think that I will... there it goes. Okay. Well then, The idea was anyway not to read these articles, but I still want to think about that. How can you review an article without even reading it? Just by saying the mainstream media has definitely produced fake news. These crisis actors of CNN are proven to be crisis actors beyond any reasonable doubt, and there must be a reason they do these things. And the question is also, is it not criminal if they do that, if they use crisis actors, etc., and pretend that there were ISIS attacks to create riots and instability? Destabilizing countries is another thing they do. So I'm not doing this. You can see I'm packing my pipe, if that's still working. They can also block my camera, and they've deleted my hard disk, my main hard disk of my other computer, so this is on a new computer for that reason. And I still have to work on retrieving the data, which may be the reason they did that in the first place. So they do it to depopulate Earth, to get rid of 7 billion people. Instead of protect and serve the taxpayers, they want to depopulate them with killer vaccines, and they pretend that they want to save you. That's a satanic inversion, because they're satanic pedophiles, with Trump with Epstein's Lolita Island. And in that picture on Getty Images, several pictures of Trump with Epstein together, his big body. And you can only see these pictures on Getty Images, so you'd have to Google it for yourself, Trump and Epstein. But it's about that article, so I would like to see this article at least, to show the people what we're talking about. And the idea was that it's wrong, that I have to set the right example. And it's wrong to read these articles of the mainstream media, the fake news, and all these fake protesters and proven lies of the mainstream media. It's very interesting to read that. And of course they only give a news selection, so most of what they write may still be true, but they leave out a lot of things like cancer chemtrails and the killer vaccines, the list of pandemics caused by vaccinations, targeted individuals, spying not just on your cancer cell phones and emails, but also on your brainwave with synthetic telepathy. So that's why the mainstream media is full of spying on your emails and your cancer cell phones, but not synthetic telepathy and the stuff that is really going on to depopulate Earth, about their depopulation. And they pretend cancer chemtrails are contrails, which is impossible, because on these pictures of before 1998 you can see these long lines in the sky were not there in before 1998 videos and pictures. That proves they are not contrails, which is the thing they like to pretend to depopulate you all. And scientists are in on pretending cancer cell phone radiation is not blocked by aluminum foil. The MIT has a deal with Raytheon. They produce these weapons, so they are used to pretend that cancer cell phone radiation microwaves are not shielded by aluminum foil, which they are, and I've shown this, and others have shown this in a YouTube video that gets pretty many views. It's a pretty high number of likes also, and I might do some more measurements. I've been planning to do that, but if everything is erased by the EMP, you should put this on a CD-ROM, and then you have the evidence that is necessary for the prosperity of humanity. So these people have definitely, they're ultra sadistic cannibals, and they use directed energy weapons also to control the judges. Therefore your whole government is terroristic, not just criminal but tyrannical. And they use these directed energy weapons to silence everyone. That's why nobody talks about synthetic telepathy, the Maleg patent, and directed energy weapon torture in pulsed energy projectile mode and active denial system mode, because it can lead to more torture. When I talk about it for me as well, perhaps they've eased up on that, especially if they know they're gonna do that Third World War. Then before that, probably controlled opposition will cease to produce any articles about the Third Jesuit World War. So perhaps instead of this I should read my own stuff and how to prevent a world war over Iran. Why a world war over Iran is impossible. Some people say Iran is too insignificant, but they have Russia as an ally. But they don't see it happening. They think that it will just result in more sanctions. And many people know the goal is a third Jesuit world war, so they're not going to fall for their lies and tricks. They're like a bunch of illusionists that like to fool the people. So don't let them fool you. They're always the ones who tell you where enemies are, but they're never the ones to fight and to die. And their technique is to play all their enemies out against each other. So don't let them play you out against other innocent civilians and point at the people really responsible. Adolfo Nicholas, leader of the Jesuits, and the Freemasons in control of the police and military. That's the reason your whole government is at least criminal. Because they are higher in rank, so they have to take orders from them. They can't do anything that they don't allow them to do, then they're out of there. So Iran, well, perhaps I should read it, perhaps I shouldn't read it. Perhaps I should first study my latest writings to see what I was writing about. My previous broadcast is about my blog universalpeace.jimdo.com being hacked. It was removed. And I wrote them about it. This is my email to jimdo.com operatives. Dear Jimdo team, my site for Universal Peace has been up for years and now it seems to be completely gone. When I try to sign in, jimdo.com does not recognize my email and my website seems to have disappeared. I can still retrieve it in the Google cache, catchedpages.com. The 15th of February 2018 it was still available according to catchedpages.com. Knowing with absolute certainty I did not remove the website myself, I wonder if this could be the work of hackers, and especially if you can help me to bring the site back. Sincerely, Ulrich B.C. Hoffman. More about it in my previous web broadcast. So if you want that page, then you can still save these pages. You can visit universalpeace.jimdo.com via cached pages. So you first have to visit catchedpages.com. That's this address here. Written like that, and then you can type in universalpeace.jimdo.com. It might contain something. The last page there's only one page that's not retrievable with cached pages. That's the one on abiogenesis. So I read this first and then I can read the article if I still feel like reading it. But it's written by a neural network that controls their minds, and it also posts in forums and comment sections. They use robots to post messages. It's psychological warfare, misleading the people as much as possible to depopulate them and enslave them, to depopulate Earth to a more controllable, enslavable number. And their book quotes prove that beyond any reasonable doubt, and they're illegally refusing me my right to press charges of incitement to commit genocide, okay? So that's what one of the things this is about. Things that obstruct our path to universal peace and living happily eternally in a perfect society, which is possible because everything is energy.
20,180,216 YouTube removed one of my videos and disabled my ability to live broadcast about which I made a broadcast. Perhaps YouTube could explain to me why they have removed it and turn on may contain content unsuitable for some viewers, or explain how I can turn it on myself. The video does not contain any cyberbullying nor incitement to commit violent acts or depopulate Earth like many other YouTube videos do that are not removed. It's the first time that I claim I think this attack was a real shooting, not fake, if I would have to guess, and I have asked the question why the KnowThisInfo.com publisher blames only Zionists and never the Jesuits and their Freemasonic Luciferian buddies. So I am not making this claim that Zionists did another fake attack. Please remove the strike so I can at least live broadcast again. It's okay to remove the video or make it inaccessible to other YouTubers so I can study what I said or did that was supposedly in violation of the YouTube policy. There was no harassment and cyberbullying in the video, and I am not some anti-Semite that blames all the Jewish people or Zionists. I made that clear in previous videos already. If people do not like a video, they can simply turn it off or not play the video. This video had 3 likes and 0 dislikes already. KnowThisInfo.com makes the Zionist claim and their YouTube channel was removed. What's the use of the strike when YouTubers can still upload videos like this one? Only their ability to do live broadcasts is affected apparently, if this upload succeeds. The only reason I can think of is that they have planned another directed energy weapon attack to get me in the hospital and are attempting to take away my ability to live broadcast it. First, my main SSD drive of my other computer. Bought new used PC, CD-ROM drive does not work on new PC, other methods to reinstall Windows fail, audio card causes error on new PC about which I did a separate broadcast about, making clear the start menu and message center are blocked, blocking all communication. Dear Ulrich Hoffman, thank you for submitting your video appeal to YouTube. After further review, we've determined that your video is in violation of our community guidelines. Any associated penalties will remain on your account. For more information, please visit the YouTube Help Center. Sincerely, the YouTube team. The previous message was posted 13:57 almost instantly after requesting further review. There is no harassment nor cyberbullying in the video, I am sure of this, so YouTube can do this to anyone that exposes them, their depopulation and methods of harassment. Of course, it's the satanic inversion, pretending the victims are the stalkers and the victims are the torturers. Or does it just seem that way to some people because they are being tortured? Watch, most criticizing video of YouTube censorship ever. We've removed this video because it violates our community guidelines. You'll be able to view this video for 7 days from when it was removed. This period allows you to review the content and decide whether you wish to submit an appeal. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=1_a. Now the audio seems to be working while earlier it was not. Global warming induced with ionospheric heaters for eco-tax money scam. Test everything you learn. Recovery begins with non-compliance. Stay proactive rather than reactive. Yada zeta exapeditor giga megakilo hectodica deci centimilli micro nano pico femto ato zepto yocto. I remember system restore was turned off, though I had turned it on and several restore points were made. Tweaking.com_Windows_repair_AIO_setup. Trump, nothing about auditing the Fed, which he promised to do. Spending $1 trillion on revising nuclear weapons and billions on another fake NASA trip to Mars instead of controlling the factors that control aging. Express.co.uk, Trump aid urges action on Iran immediately as missile development threatens World War III. Express.co.uk, February 17, 2018. Call anyone on their mobile or landline, even if they're not on Skype. When I use Skype, it's because I do not want anyone to use the harmful cancer cell phone radiation. Love fitness or love fatness? Or both? Skull and Bones Gary, it was strategic thinking, not a concession, to leave missiles out of Iran nuclear deal. News.com 6 hours ago. How to surf I have. On the racist, homophobic and anti-Semitic website Daily Stormer we find the following headlines. Jerusalem Times reports on Nicholas Cruz's anti-Semitism, brushes over fact he's a Jew. FBI got 3 different reports about the Jew who shot up a school, but they were real busy. Gun control is code for population control. Joe Jones, if you disarm a population and only arm the agents of the state, you are only allowing the state to do whatever the hell they want without any fear of repercussions. February 18, 19, 2018. Gun control equals democide. Let DHS first get rid of their hollow point bullets, then we'll talk. Anarchy in Vatican City, CERN-esque. Even a pigeon is above religion. There should be global laws that are the same wherever you may travel. It's already known that there is no country that allows murder, so it's about raising the marriageable age worldwide to 16 at least, and perhaps to 18 worldwide. Who could do such a thing? Who could make it happen and how? My compliments to all pedo hunters that really caught real pedophiles. Thank you for doing the community a favor for free, unlike the police that are supposed to do this, that get your tax money for free. My new YouTube channel, Universal Peace Tube, https://www.youtube.com/channel/usilvimjmutto67_imlu_ow.
So I haven't succeeded at changing that URL to a more usable URL with words like Universal Peace Tube. Perhaps YouTube could enable that for me. That would be nice. And the next part is about the question: if they are telling the truth and it's done by Zionists with a directed energy weapon in control of the Jesuits and Masons, should that then be discussable, or will it be made undiscussable? Because to find out who is the dictator, you can look at what is censored. So, what do we all think? I don't know if the next part is anti-Semitic, so I care to know what you all think about it. Let's read it.
YouTube broadcasts on my new channel, daily news overview and collected writings for Universal Peace. Putin's attack on American troops is just one example, so perhaps I should avoid all racism, homophobia and anti-Semitism I find online. If a lot less than 6 million Jewish people died is not what matters, that Hitler was pursuing a global government does, nor none, Third Reich blah blah. That war is always a crime matters, no blood for cancer oil. However, 6 Jewish people that want to depopulate Earth, 90% of the mainstream media owned by Jewish people, and accusations of fake ISIS attacks, using crisis actors, proven, and fake, paid protesters in the Jewish George Soros's superstate as a stepping stone to an illegal Luciferian totalitarian stepping stone does matter and should be discussable. If this is all true, it is a major problem, so we should and do have the right to investigate this, don't we? If there are 6 Jews that want to depopulate Earth, the mainstream media should report about this real danger to 93% of the world's global population they want to exterminate, but then they should also report about all so perhaps I should avoid all racism, homophobia and anti-Semitism I find online. If a lot less than 6 million Jewish people died is not what matters, that Hitler was pursuing a global government does, nor none, Third Reich blah blah. That war is always a crime matters, no blood for cancer oil. However, 6 Jewish people that want to depopulate Earth, 90% of the mainstream media owned by Jewish people, and accusations of fake ISIS attacks, using crisis actors, proven, and fake, paid protesters in the Jewish George Soros's superstate as a stepping stone to an illegal Luciferian totalitarian global government does matter and should be discussable. If this is all true, it is a major problem, so we should and do have the right to investigate this, don't we? If there are 6 Jews that want to depopulate Earth, the mainstream media should report about this real danger to 93% of the world's global population they want to exterminate, but then they should also report about all non-Jews involved like I do, and mention the involvement of the big players, the Jesuits and Masons. If they try to blame all what they call Jewish people, they are bound to end up in jail or worse, so be forewarned. Keep it real. Time is running now, so perhaps it's best not to mention the 6 Jews depopulating the Earth or make a list and leave out they are Jewish. You could argue they are a disgrace to the Jewish people. Just make a list of all of the depopulators with their name and addresses, not just the Jewish ones. What are you all willing to do for a good future? Stefan Molyneux asks a Jew about Jewish hypocrisy on immigration. He was not banned for cyberbullying. Stefan Molyneux Jewish confession, YouTube. Diversity for all countries except Israel is something covered by the alt-right. I am independent, so no racism and homophobia in my broadcasts. If they ban me again, I hope you all re-upload my videos. Help expose controlled opposition so real resistance forms. YouTube video, CIA Director, World War III begins in 12 weeks. Alamongordo.com article review? Uploaded 24/02/2018. Legitimate. In fentanyl.
So I can select the text to read it with the speech engine if I'm a blind person. Press Control A and C. Oh, it was the Google search hanging. Try another one. Video output low. That should be off. That was causing the problem because it's showing the live broadcast, and then if it's at 720p or whatever, then it's causing that problem. And it wasn't loading the page a while ago, and so one thing I can do is just copy it and then reload the browser, or use Control-Shift-D. That still works. Control-Shift-D. Takes a while. And then you can bookmark the session of these 3 open tabs. But I can see them in history, so for now I'm going to close this. Or attempt to close it. Iran blames Yemen war on British. On what? British leaders or British citizens, or just on all of Britain? Syrian time bomb ticking towards Israel-Iran war. Well, we'll just have to be patient to read that fake news article, USA Today. So we can ask USA Today what has made them stray from the path. How could they have fallen this low? Project Mockingbird, does it ring a bell? CIA, control of mainstream media. Wikipedia also writes lies. For example, about aluminum foil's shielding properties. They're trying to make my voice fade at the moment, so I might get some tea. until this program is stopped.
USA Today subscribe and it'll get home delivery. USA Today News, Sports, Life. USA Today subscribe and it'll get home delivery. USA Today. Tensions between Saudi Arabia and Iran escalate in wake of nuclear deal. Newsweek, August 24, 2016. HAARP's new owner holds open house to prove facility is not capable of mind control. Published 25/08 2016. Alaska Dispatch News. ID.com. A fake facility in Gakona is open to the public every 6 years and the real facility in Poker Flats is not. HAARP likely not primary ionospheric array in Alaska. At 3.5 billion watts, HAARP may be second to a secret and hidden Fipa array near Poker Flat. Superforce.com/HAARP. HAARP's new owner holds open house to prove facility is not capable of mind control would also disprove U.S. military is shutting down HAARP. RT.com. Published time, 27th of May, 2014. The lies about HAARP shutdown prove true. WakingTimes.com.
So now it seems to be working normally again. But to do the right thing, we need to find out what they want the people to believe, what lies are they are trying to control them with. And to do that, we need to read these articles. Is the theory. So instead of being radical about it and saying no more reading of these fake news articles, I say 80 or 90% of it's true anyway, and perhaps we can learn something from them. We can even learn from evil and stupid people, etc., if we are smart enough.
Iran says nuclear deal is worst ever, and it's Trump's fault. February 22, 2018. London, Iran's deputy foreign minister said Thursday that the nuclear deal between his country and 6 world powers, including the United States, is the worst ever for Iran. Speaking in the British capital, Abbas Araghchi also said that President Trump's persistent public vows to destroy it, fix it, change it, represented a violation of the terms of the accord that were damaging his country's ability to secure much-needed international investment. Araghchi warned that the world faces another nuclear crisis if the deal collapses. He added that if Iran does not receive the deal's promised economic benefits, it would likely withdraw from the agreement, even if Trump doesn't scrap it ahead of a May 12 deadline for him to issue fresh waivers on U.S. sanctions. If the same policy of confusion and uncertainties about the deal continues, if companies and banks are not working with Iran, we cannot remain in a deal that has no benefit for us, Araghchi said in a speech at the London-based think tank Chatham House. That's a fact. More, taking aim at Iran, U.S. hits Hezbollah with new sanctions. More, half of Iran wants to drop mandatory hijab, study says. The landmark 2015 agreement between Iran and the U.S., Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France and Germany called on Tehran to limit its nuclear program to peaceful activities in exchange for lifting crippling sanctions on its economy. The International Atomic Energy Agency, an organization that promotes the peaceful use of nuclear energy, has confirmed.
I heard hijab. Bad joke. It's life, nothing we can do.
That Iran is largely abiding by the terms, but Trump has repeatedly railed against the deal and refused to certify that Iran is in compliance. He has called the agreement the worst ever and full of terrible flaws because it does not specifically address Iran's ballistic missile program or the terms under which inspectors can visit Iran's nuclear sites. Trump also objects to sunset clauses in the agreement that mean some limits on Iran's nuclear program will begin expiring after 10 years. The May 12 deadline represents an opportunity for Trump to pull the U.S. out of another international deal. He has already abandoned the Paris Climate Accord and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a 12-nation trade deal. He wants to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, a 24-year-old trade pact with Canada and Mexico. In London, Araghchi contested all three of Trump's objections to the deal, saying the president's interpretations of what he perceived to be the agreement's defects were wrong because they were never intended to form part of the accord in the first place. He said the White House had created a destructive atmosphere around the deal and that Trump's frequent comments about it were like a poison. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Iran time. Connect tweet link and 10 comment email more share your feedback to help improve our site experience. Sponsor content spielt it spell 2 minuten lang in sie or alma iterine verslaft is river combat. Bidabula sponsored links popular stories Supreme Court keeps DACA program in place usetoday.com an hour ago it's not just you, everybody is exhausted usetoday.com 5 hours ago finds team fails to earn dumb endorsement usetoday.com a day ago 5 things you need to know Monday usetoday.com 6 hours ago China's Xi Jinping could rule as president indefinitely usetoday.com 6 hours ago. Bidabula sponsored links add content EU slim alarm system grow.com expert market if you're over 30 and own a computer, this game is a must-have. Throne, free online game top dating sites, Andmo at singles in Netherlands best dating sites Gelukstruck maakt energy over en serswoord en voudig overstappen meer dan 3 voortuigen, higher is een gel struck om des theolocalis voortuig volgsismen.
So I still have to check when this was, about 3 weeks ago. I don't know if the president now thinks they're in compliance or not. But it's weird that they already claimed not to allow inspections, though the IAEA hasn't had their list, so they haven't even tested if they would allow these inspections. According to the New York Times, they first have to supply them with a list. The IAEA has to get a list of suspect sites before they can do any inspections. So it seems to be that they want to create this world war, that they are already saying this without the IAEA attempting or doing the inspections, which they wouldn't do unless they had this list as claimed in that article, and I've covered it in my previous broadcasts. And there are other reasons, but it may also be the transition to Trump and that they have just planned more sanctions and not a world war and 7-year nuclear winter for several reasons. And nobody would survive it without scalar, without a Tesla plasma shield. The scalar world war, and it would be one because there are 15 scalar weapon countries. The wireless energy of Nikola Tesla, of course. Tesla's death ray. The patents are online, so anybody can build one. And you bet there are loads of them. Anyway, I think it's MI5, MI6, and NSA controlled by the Jesuits. And they are the only ones that can do these directed energy weapon torture attacks and synthetic telepathy, the voice of God weapon that was used to make the Iraqi people surrender themselves, etc. It's all documented until the EMP erases it, basically.
I don't think Iran is in compliance. We wrote them a very tough letter to the, as you know, to the Congress. I personally don't think they're in compliance, but we have time, and we're going to see. We also put down a lot of defaults or
compliance or will be in compliance.
I don't think Iran is.
Can you share with us your latest thoughts on Iran, speaking of nuclear deals, and whether you feel like they are in compliance or will be in compliance?
I don't think Iran is in compliance. We wrote them a very tough letter to the, as you know, to the Congress. I personally don't think they're in compliance, but we have time. And we're going to see. We also put down a lot of defaults or potential default situations. I don't think they're living up to the spirit of the agreement. President Obama, in his wisdom, gave them $150 billion. He gave them $1.8 billion in cash, that's a hard one to figure. But that was his decision. I think it's a horrible agreement. But they are not in compliance with the agreement, and they are certainly not in the spirit of the agreement in compliance. And I think you'll see some very strong things taking place if they don't get themselves in compliance. But I do not believe they are in compliance right now.
August 10, 2017, uploaded CNN on YouTube. So, that's a while ago, and perhaps they are in compliance now. And President Trump has called it the worst deal ever. So you could argue this is reactive behavior. And I'd have to read the article again to get anything that's written in it, I guess. Iran's deputy foreign minister said Thursday that the nuclear deal between his country and 6 world powers, including the United States, is the worst, unquote, ever for Iran. Worst ever, unquote. Speaking in the British capital, Abbas Araghchi also said that President Trump's persistent public vows to, quote, destroy it, fix it, change it, unquote, represented a violation of the terms of the accord that were damaging his country's ability to secure much-needed international investment. Araghchi warned that the world faces, quote, another nuclear crisis if the deal collapses. He added that Iran does not receive the deal's promised economic benefits. It would likely withdraw from the agreement even if Trump doesn't scrap it ahead of a May 12th deadline for him to issue fresh waivers, unquote, on US sanctions. Well, it's about Iran signing the NPT, that Israel didn't sign, Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. So they're not going to sanction Israel for their nuclear submarines and nuclear weapons, and they might keep denying they have them, but they have signed the NPT, so they would take measures if there's any chance that they are producing a nuclear weapon. But then they'd first have to prove that, I guess. And I don't know. I think that the Quds facilities, for example, these satellite pictures of the Quds facility don't prove anything in and of itself. But if they have that through-the-wall radar, then they should, and they do know if Iran is producing any nuclear weapons. They've done these ballistic missile tests, etc. And they wouldn't make it through a Tesla plasma shield. So scalar weapons have made nuclear weapons obsolete. And Israel has several missile shields, etc., so they cannot pose any threat. And it's also very dubious whether Iran would use these nuclear weapons if they would be able to produce them, because the US has invested more in the military-industrial complex than any other nation. About 54% of the American taxpayer money flows to the military. in 2018. That's the year I'm supposedly in. Can you believe it? Anyway, so that's another deal they have, the NPT. They have promised not to produce any nuclear weapons, and people that use that NPT as a power basis or whatever will use it to prevent them from producing a nuclear weapon, and use it as an excuse to go to war if they do produce a nuclear weapon or something like that. I'm just theorizing here. So President Trump talked about Iran not being in compliance, which is about that site where they supposedly don't allow inspections that they have agreed to in the agreement. I've checked that for myself. It's an addendum or something to that agreement, and it's in there. And they've agreed to all inspections, so they cannot refuse any, or otherwise they are not keeping their end of the agreement. And that could be a basis for sanctions and or bombing the Iranian facilities where the inspections are not allowed. And if they plan to do that, whatever they plan to do, they should have an agreement with the Russians, the Russian allies of Iran, to prevent World War III is a lot more important. No blood for cancer oil, and focus on universal peace and achieving that instead of depopulating Earth and gaining power and wealth themselves. Because they already have more than they can ever spend. They have a lot more than most people. And yet they are continuing to depopulate and murder and torture people for more power and more wealth. So that vicious circle has to be stopped. There are several vicious circles that people might be able to think of and do something about. We can do something about it ourselves. We will not go quietly, or we will go quietly, and if we do not act, we are acted upon or not. So perhaps those are jokes. I think it's true. If we do not act, we are acted upon, and etc. It's just my attempt to make an entertaining broadcast. The screen is kind of bright. Perhaps I can use F-Lux to dim it a little bit. F-Lux is working. And wow, space. So this is off, and this is well, something like that I think is better for my eyes. I'm using quite a big screen, so yeah, the steps to avoid a world war over Iran are for Iran to allow inspections of the IAEA, which first have to be supplied with a list, which they didn't get yet. So that it's very weird that they already claim that they will not allow these inspections, though they haven't even, the IAEA has not had a list and they haven't attempted to do any inspections. And second so Iran should allow inspections. It's in the agreement, you can check it out, it's online for yourselves. If you don't believe me, don't believe anybody, just check it out for yourself. You have the internet, you have access to the world. Many webcams and websites and people broadcasting live. So it is an eye on the world, better than many other, or any other perhaps. Anyway, so Iran should allow the inspections. The US should first have an agreement with the Russians if they do sanctions or bombings to avoid World War III. And they have a missile shield, so Iran cannot pose any threat to Israel or other countries, even if they have a nuclear weapon, which many countries have. And these damn nuclear weapons can only blow up people. Bloody nuclear weapons, because religion is evil. Bloody nuclear weapons can only kill people, They cannot save anyone, therefore we should get rid of them together worldwide. Russians, Chinese and Americans, when they agree, then the rest will also agree, and then we can dismantle all nukes, which will create jobs but still be a lot cheaper than a third Jesuit World War. And it will also preserve the infrastructure more. So the scalar weapons have made these nukes obsolete anyway. They cannot deny the existence of Nikola Tesla's death ray, and scientists agree on that as well. So people can deny this is a table and this is a microphone, but they're not going to get very far. People know some people cannot be fooled. You cannot fool all the people all the time, etc. I'm even open to debate about that, if it's possible that they can fool all the people all the time with a time-traveling neural network that controls the human mind with these scalar waves, not microwaves, which is the misconception many targeted individuals seem to have. So it's possible. I love my new rings, very manly, very cool. This is a real turquoise, and this is garnet, silver, and they look awesome. And my new watch is cool as well. So that's one benefit of the Garmin Phoenix. So yeah, I'm not an anti-Semite because I do not want to exterminate the Jewish people, and I'm not blaming them. There are many other people depopulating the earth. I'm blaming the Jesuits and Masons because they're the only ones that could have demolished the WTC and gotten away with it, make the planes stand down, etc. and that are in control of Mossad and the other intelligence agencies, MI5, MI6 and NSA, according to that little picture on the Citizens Action Network page on Facebook. So it's largely covered up by controlled opposition, though they expose it. It's in a way that you say, well, it's just a Facebook page, and what is this? It seems flaky and not somebody with a lot of viewers or influence or power, etc. But they have some good stuff. Citizens Action Network on Facebook. I could visit them right now to see if they write anything about a possible world war over Iran. So you need to prepare with radiological water filter, storable food and weapons to protect yourself and your family during these perilous times. Perhaps also a bulletproof vest and a gas mask and the radiological water filter, iodine pills, and what else do they really need if they want to survive? You can wonder about it yourself. People need water, people need food. But water is much more important than food. Also, during a solar storm, the electrical pumps of your water supply will cease to work, so then tap water will be cut off for everyone. And that may be another thing in the cards. Actually, NASA claims that it will happen again, the solar storm. Will it be this year or next year, or how to predict when it will happen? But the main thing is they can build in ground resistors that's cheap and effective, but they didn't and they don't. So the goal is depopulating the earth. They know it will happen and that people will be out of water if they don't have any filter. Then they could die of drinking rainwater. You can catch that in a little pot and then get it analyzed to see what toxins are in there, like altered blood plasma and designer viruses. That's one thing they put in there in the cancer chemtrails. That's the actual source. Of course, they try to deny and lie about it. But that's also sometimes why you see red clouds. It's altered blood plasma. Though it looks very nice anyway. It's so these viruses are absorbed faster. So 27,000 times less variants are required to induce the equivalent amount of disease when dispersed in aerosol form, according to Medscape.com. So that's the reason they're trying to depopulate via cancer chemtrails. So an Aircleaner with an ionizer. I also don't just cover these problems. I'm a conspiracy factist, a truth teller, But I also offer the solutions, like the Aircleaner with the ionizer, radiological water filter, and other stuff that they can also buy from other websites or on eBay. Ethereal oils. Anyway, I've listed depopulation methods and the way you can survive it and your family as well. So I'm trying to be the good guy, also exposing controlled opposition, Alex Jones, Kevin Annett, Vatican assassins Eric John Phelps, and other controlled opposition. So these are, most of them are working for the Jesuits, and they form controlled opposition to themselves to prevent any real resistance to their global government. So it's not about globalism, but about a global government, about centralization versus decentralization. Not about closing all borders so people cannot do business anymore, and though that can also be a technique. They want to destroy countries to destabilize them and to impose their satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government regime upon the people of planet Earth. So George Soros's EU superstate may just be a mere stepping stone towards that global government. I should be looking into the camera instead of at my screen. Of course, it's looks kind of retarded, and I see many people do that. Though I'm not reading anything off the screen, so it's not necessary. So I can look at myself on the screen also, and I can use the main camera again when I'm sitting here talking. Then it's nicer if you can see the spinning globe, the giraffe, and the fake palm tree in the background. Yeah, so I can feel it. My father is coming up with dinner soon. We eat kind of late sometimes, but we're lucky enough that we're in a country that we have food. And I think I'm gonna get some tea, so I can put it either on the Sony cam. This is a live view, and I still have to connect the other thing, install thing to control it. I might do that right now. It's an application called BDL Cam. And then I'd have to put it in the... Oh, then my camera, that I can't do that right now. If I put something in the USB hub, then my camera ceases to function, and then it's not usable during this broadcast anymore. Then I have to restart OBS. And I can use these shortcut keys to switch between different modes. Control 1, this is control 1, main camera. Control 2, the desktop. Control 3, the picture show. Control 4, tiny cam in the left bottom corner with the desktop. And number 5 is the Sony cam, a very old Sony cam. Okay. So I was gonna choose the picture show. That's 2 or 3. Control 3. See? So it works. But I show you what I'm doing with OBS. For several reasons, also because they're messing with my broadcast, so it's to document everything. I'm not trying to make a perfect news broadcast that is seen by millions of viewers to generate revenue and to control the populace, working together with these people, depopulating the earth in reality, but the opposite. I'm trying to promote controlling the factors that control aging and create a perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally. Possible because everything is energy. What we see on the screen are molecules, our eyes are molecules, protons, neutrons, electrons, you name it. It's all floating around us somewhere. The sun is rising while it's setting somewhere else at the same time, at this time on our planet. And that's continuous, sunrise and sunset. And many people don't even realize that. Ponder upon that, if you will. I will get some tea. Okay, I'm back. Some tea and some lemonade. Bio lemonade, of course. So for me, animal products and soy, cotton and canola have to be biological, organic, eco. Otherwise I will not eat them. That's another reason why I cannot go into a hospital. And they had a reasonable satay when I was in the hospital, the AMC hospital in Amsterdam, for vegetarians. It's healthier to be vegetarian, that's why most smart people are vegetarian. They're usually smarter and nicer than the cadaver eaters or meat eaters. But of course it's not always true. So they are bound to have changed that. Satay is perhaps not there anymore. They do the torture and the murders to the best of us because they're the worst of us. Opposites attract, they say. An animal is not the opposite of a human. Ivanka Trump scolds NBC News for inappropriate quote question about her father's sex misconduct accusers. So then I wonder what evidence is there. There's pictures of Trump, there are pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein of the Lolita Island, etc. And you can only find these pictures on Getty Images, so I'm not going to show them now. You have to pay for these images if you want to use them in your broadcast or blog or whatever. And if you use them without permission, then you have to pay even more. So it's interesting that these pictures are only found on Getty Images. So we can read this whole article. So what sexual misconduct are we talking about, if any, and what evidence is there to support that? If you know, then please Skype or let us know in the comments what proves that Donald Trump is a pedophile knight of Malta, if anything. And all these Jesuits, including Hillary and everybody at the top, is pedo. They're pedo elite. Or not? What do you all think? Is it, even if they were, perhaps it would be inappropriate to say it? does it matter? I mean, they are just puppets controlled by these Jesuits, so if they are killed, they put another puppet in place, and they have their own handlers. I've covered Trump's Jewish cabal in my previous broadcast, so that they're pretending that he's a Nazi and alt-right, etc. The phrase coined by Hillary, alt-right and alt-left. And it's interesting that they're on our keyboards next to the space bar. Wow, next to the space bar, that's so beautiful. But the space bar is a lot bigger than they are. So, I'm not gonna go that way. I go straight ahead to my goal. Universal peace, of course. But since it's trending in the news right now, NBC, Fox News, what is this? FoxNews.com. Some call it faux news. Need I say more? Let's review this whole article.
Ivanka Trump scolds NBC News for inappropriate question about her father's sex misconduct accusers. NBC and MSNBC reporter Peter Alexander asked Ivanka Trump about sexual misconduct accusations that her father has repeatedly denied. First daughter Ivanka Trump scolded NBC and MSNBC reporter Peter Alexander for what she considered an inappropriate question about her father's sexual misconduct accusers during an interview from South Korea on Monday.
So, then I can look up scolded, though I doubt if I'll remember it.
Scold.
Remonstrate with or rebuke someone angrily. WTF is that then?
Remonstrate.
Make a forcefully reproachful protest.
Reproachful.
Expressing disapproval or disappointment.
The first daughter sat down with Alexander who, after a voiceover explaining that President Trump has denied accusations of sexual misconduct, asked, "Do you believe your father's accusers?" I think it's a pretty inappropriate question to ask a daughter if she believes the accusers of her father when he's affirmatively stated that there's no truth to it. I don't think that's a question you would ask many other daughters. Ivanka fired back, "I believe my father, I know my father." Some pro-Trump viewers took to Twitter to defend the first daughter. One viewer tweeted, "Why even ask Ivanka Trump about the allegations of sexual misconduct against her dad? What did Peter Alexander think she was going to say?"
Well, some might even think she may have been abused by him as well. She is kind of cute, I guess. So today's show, that's what, Twitter or, let's see, twitter.com, yeah. So they write, "Do you believe your father's sexual misconduct accusers?" at Peter Alexander. I think it's a pretty inappropriate question, to ask a daughter if she believes the accusers of her father when he's affirmatively stated there is no truth to it. So that's a form of scolding, you could argue. I guess they argue that way. I'd have to think about this. Well, the reporter might think you never know, and he can always ask, and this way it is even covered in the news basically. Otherwise, if he wouldn't have asked it, would this have been a headline on Fox News? That type of idea. Any publicity is good publicity, thanks. Please like and subscribe for universal peace.
Another viewer said the question was both crude and rude, while many others pondered whether or not reporters would ask Chelsea Clinton a similar question about her father. Ivanka answered the very inflammatory and inappropriate questions from NBC perfectly. A viewer tweeted, "Does NBC wonder why the public dislikes them so much? Trump has denied accusations of different forms of sexual misconduct that have been levied against him." Some media members defended Alexander, such as CNN's Jake Tapper, who said Ivanka works for the taxpayers and he's trying to figure out what part of this is inappropriate. Washington Post's Philip Rucker, who is Alexander's colleague as an MSNBC and NBC News analyst, wrote that it's not an inappropriate question because Ivanka Trump has chosen to work in the House as a staffer and presidential advisor, while many defended Alexander's question because the first daughter also works for her father's administration. Some industry insiders have wondered if NBC is hypocritical when it comes to sexual misconduct. NBC News chairman Andy Lack also oversees MSNBC, and Alexander frequently appears on both networks. Last year, Lack was forced to fire Today star Matt Lauer because of sexual misconduct allegations at the height of the #Me Too movement. Lack has not been transparent about the events that led up to the sudden firing of his close friend, as parent company Comcast has said its top HR executives are investigating who knew what about Lauer's behavior during his long reign at NBC. There is no public information about the investigation into its news division, which is apparently still underway 3 months after Lauer was shown the door. Meanwhile, Lack has yet to give a cogent explanation for why NBC News spiked Ronan Farrow's explosive reporting on Harvey Weinstein, which Farrow eventually took to the prestigious New Yorker magazine and is now receiving Pulitzer buzz for helping expose the disgraced Hollywood mogul as a sexual predator. A Vanity Fair feature tied the Weinstein and Lauer scandals together, quoting a former employee who said, "They were sitting in a glass house and they knew it." Universal told Fox News on Monday that the internal investigation is ongoing and involves top legal and human resources executives from the company. Brian Flood covers the media for Fox News. Follow him on Twitter at @BriansFlood. Sponsored stories you may like. This game brings the fantasy world to life. This game brings the fantasy world to life. Elvener. Leonardo DiCaprio buys Malibu beachfront home from one of Trump's cabinet picks. Leonardo DiCaprio buys Malibu beachfront home from one of Trump's Mansion Global. The top 5 free most trusted antivirus protection 2018. The top 5 free most trusted antivirus protection 2018. My antivirus review. Cryptocurrency Stellar joins eToro. Cryptocurrency Stellar joins eToro. eToro blog. Add content by. Sponsored stories. 6 presidential properties for sale. Mansion Global. Secure everything, preparing for the enterprise of things. CSO Online. How customer experience can impact your growth. Learn more. 3ds. More from Fox News. Positive she saw Bigfoot. She's suing California. Fox News Tech. Kaylee Muthart, 20, is blind after she gouged her eyes out while Fox News US. Royal Ling, 35, and Sarah Wilson, 32, were arrested and charged with Fox News US. Ad content by On Our Radar TMZ partner links only Matt Lauer 2 Lauer caught on tape TMZ only C meets C's newest models TMZ only Olympians 2 What happened to Olympians? TMZ in percent 20 August, poor snowflake Ivanka. Jared is going to jail for being a treasonous Trumpganistan loyalist. Better get your Moscow condo soon Jared and Ivanka. It will be the only safe place in the free world for you soon reply share. Ivanka would be right if she didn't work for the WH. Sorry, all bets are off and no paying the family card when we're paying you as a federal employee. Reply share. So easy to stand above a liberal. Reply share 3 likes. How dare they ask this fragile child about Fat Donnie's philandering? Exclamation mark. Fox, let's hear some outrage. Oh. Wait. She is 36 and is employed as a top presidential advisor that cannot get proper security clearance? Outrage, cancelled. What is this? Nepotism, third world country style, sad. Reply share 1 like. That just goes to prove that Peter Alexanders has no class and neither does the news network he lies for. He is the continuing cause of fake news otherwise known as liars. Reply share 1 like. So much hate in the anti-Trump camp. Maybe when they mature a little, get a job with some responsibility, and learn to do some research they will start to mellow out. I remember that Carter had many enthusiastic fans as well. Reply share. The irony is incredible. Righties loved Obama and Clinton, right? Reply share. Ivanka is the picture of class. Peter Alexander is the picture of disgust. Reply share 2 likes. Ivanka very bad woman. She married a spy. Daddy is puss. Grabber. Mom is gold digger. Very very sad. Reply share. Too bad she didn't slap his face. Reply share 4 likes. Funny how quickly the pictures of Obama's daughter smoking dope in public disappeared without much from the MSM. Reply share 4 likes. Why send Ivanka? She's not an official US federal employee. Reply share. Donnie is right. She is one smoking piece. Reply share. Eat your heart out, liberal loser. Reply share. Reply share 1 like. Porn star Stormy Daniels told a magazine 6 years ago that she had an affair with Donald Trump starting right after his wife Melania gave birth to their son, Barron. He told me once that I was someone to be reckoned with, beautiful and smart just like his daughter. Reply share 3 likes.
So it's nice that you can see these comments being made, but the counter also went down. I wonder how that's possible. I circled it at the beginning. And all these things, this is what Twitter. It's all not read out by the speech engine. So you could argue it's not important enough. Preventing World War III is much more important. I'm not going to remember all these words. Oh, bring it back. So that was 2017, and we're now in 2018, so let's see if they're saying anything about this now in the news. Well, I can read that then.
About 75.900 results, 0,51 seconds. Search results story image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from New York Times rewrite Iran deal, Europeans offer a different solution, a new, New York Times 9 hours ago Washington, President Trump's threat to rip up the Iran nuclear deal has touched off an urgent scramble in European capitals to preserve the agreement, not by rewriting it, but by creating a successor deal that would halt Iran's ballistic missile program and make permanent the restrictions on its. Story image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from Foreign Policy, blog, Europe's sanctions blocking threats are empty foreign policy, blog-February 20, 2018 But with their access to the US financial system hanging in the balance, European banks know that, in the end, the EU must satisfy Trump's demands to fix the deal or be prepared to fully comply when US sanctions return. The latest salvo from Denis Chaibi, the head of the Iranian task force at the Trump said to oppose Boeing deal with Iran Air. Report Brest February 20, 2018 Trump moves to bar Boeing Iran Agreement International The Jerusalem Post February 19, 2018 View all story image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from USA Today Iran says nuclear deal is worst ever, and it's Trump's fault USA Today February 22, 2018 But Trump has repeatedly railed against the deal and refused to certify that Iran is in compliance. He has called the agreement the worst ever and full of terrible flaws because it does not specifically address Iran's ballistic missile program or the terms under which inspectors can visit Iran's nuclear sites. Fear of war looms over Syrian neighbors, Iran says BBC News February 21, 2018 Iran warns of nuclear crisis if Chikbawa deal is scrapped Al-Jazeera.com February 22, 2018 Media image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from BBC News Media image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from Al-Jazeera.com Al-Jazeera.com Media image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from Deutsche Welle Media image for Iran not in compliance Trump 2018 from U.S. Skip to content skip to navigation view mobile version The New York Times Middle East vertical bar rewrite Iran deal? Europeans offer a different solution, a new chapter. Share. Tweet. Email. More. Save. Erdogan tells a weeping girl, 6, she'd receive honors if martyred. A quiet Jerusalem neighborhood gets a U.S. embassy, and a spotlight. Rewrite Iran deal? Europeans offer a different solution, a new chapter. Lower oil prices force Saudis to widen their circle of friends, despite UN ceasefire. Syrian forces begin new attacks in rebel-held enclave. Kurdish leader is arrested in Prague at Turkey's request. UN Security Council votes in favor of Syria ceasefire after week of bloodshed. Women are free and armed in Kurdish-controlled northern Syria. Hardline supporter of Israel offers to pay for U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. Iran finally let her see her husband. He was dead. Blocked by Russia. UN fails to pass Syria ceasefire resolution. Syrian militias enter Afrin, dealing a setback to Turkey. Win no place. Rewrite Iran deal? Europeans offer a different solution, a new chapter. By Mark Landler, David E. Sanger and Gardner Harris Feb. 26, 2018 Continue reading the main story. Share this page. Share. Tweet. Email. More. Save. Photo President Trump with Secretary of State Rex W. Tillerson, right, and Lieutenant Gen. H. R. McMaster, the National Security Advisor, who have been able to talk him out of ending the Iran nuclear deal in the past. Credit Andrew Harnick, Associated Press, Washington. President Trump's threat to rip up the Iran nuclear deal has touched off an urgent scramble in European capitals to preserve the agreement, not by rewriting it, but by creating a successor deal that would halt Iran's ballistic missile program and make permanent the restrictions on its ability to produce nuclear fuel. The State Department is trying to win European support for strict new terms that would essentially be presented to Iran as a fait accompli, with the threat of renewed sanctions if it fails to comply. The Iranians have so far dismissed the exercise as a backdoor effort to reopen the 2015 agreement, negotiated by Mr. Trump's predecessor, Barack Obama. The transatlantic talks, which are being led by a low-key State Department official, Brian H. Hook, are fraught with risks, not least that Mr. Trump may reject whatever the Europeans offer him. He has called the agreement the worst deal ever and has demanded that Britain, France and Germany fix it by May 12 or he will pull the United States out. Talking points that Secretary of State Rex W. Tillerson recently circulated to American diplomats in Europe warned that in the absence of a clear commitment from your side to address these issues, the United States will not again waive sanctions in order to stay in the Iran nuclear deal. The instructions, which were shown to the New York Times, stipulate that the Europeans agree to three key fixes: a commitment to renegotiate limits on missile testing by Iran, an assurance that inspectors have unfettered access to Iranian military bases, and an extension of the deal's expiration dates to prevent Iran from resuming the production of nuclear fuel long after the current restrictions expire in 2030. Continue reading the main story-related coverage. News analysis. Trump's demand to rewrite Iran deal tests a weakened diplomatic core. January 12, 2018. Europe resists Trump's call for tougher measures on Iran. January 3, 2018. Deal reached on Iran nuclear program, limits on fuel would lessen with time. July 14, 2015. European diplomats said there was scope for an agreement on missiles and inspections, but not yet on the length of the deal. They argue that rewriting those terms would break the bargain they struck, not only with Iran but also with Russia and China, two other signatories. And breaching the deal, they say, would free Iran to pursue nuclear weapons again. That is why, as the two sides prepare to meet again in Berlin next month, the Europeans are floating the concept of an add-on deal, which would extend rather than upend the existing deal. In Paris last week, they asked Mr. Hook to guarantee that if they agreed to an extension, Mr. Trump would promise not to tear up the accord on some other pretext. Mr. Hook, a Republican lawyer who is the State Department's Director of Policy Planning, said he would bring the request back to Washington. European diplomats said they worry that Mr. Trump's scorn for the deal runs so deep that he would find other reasons to pull out. Last month, he warned that the accord is under continuous review, and our participation can be cancelled by me as president at any time. Even if Mr. Trump did pledge to abide by the deal, it is far from clear that a successor deal would be endorsed by Russia or China, let alone the Iranians, who signaled in recent weeks that they are planning a new project, a fleet of nuclear-powered ships, fueled by Iranian-made reactors, that they say would justify resuming the production of nuclear fuel as the limits imposed by the deal expire over the next dozen years. Still, the mere fact that the United States and Europe are trying to work out a compromise attests to the desire, on both sides, to find a solution that would satisfy Mr. Trump while not unraveling the deal. The President's National Security Team, Mr. Tillerson, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, and the National Security Advisor, Lieutenant Gen. H. R. McMaster, has on 3 occasions talked him out of ripping up the deal. With each deadline to reimpose sanctions on Iran, that task gets harder. There is an element of diplomatic legerdemain to the exercise, European diplomats acknowledge. How do you convince Mr. Trump that you have changed the deal without actually changing it? The supplemental deal is a diplomatic device that is being used to allow the Europeans to declare victory, said Mark Dubowitz, a leading critic of the Iran deal who is nevertheless open to the idea. They can say they were able to keep the deal, remain steadfast to their commitment not to renegotiate it, but also to satisfy the U.S. and their own concerns that the length of the deal was too short, said Mr. Dubowitz, the chief executive of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. By law, Mr. Trump must decide every 120 days whether to continue suspending long-standing American economic sanctions against Tehran, which the United States committed to lift as part of the deal. If he were to reimpose them, as he has threatened, that would effectively scuttle the deal. Newsletter sign up. Continue reading the main story. The Interpreter newsletter. Understand the world with sharp insight and commentary on the major news stories of the week. You agree to receive occasional updates and special offers for the New York Times' products and services. See sample privacy policy opt-out or contact us anytime. Iran complains that Mr. Trump's threats have already kept European banks from investing in major projects in Iran, denying it the benefits that were promised for giving up its enrichment program. If the same policy of confusion and uncertainties over the future of the deal continue, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister, Abbas Araqi, who was a member of the negotiating team, said last week, if companies and banks are not working with Iran, we cannot remain in a deal that has no benefit for us. The International Atomic Energy Agency said last week that it had received formal notice from Tehran about a decision that has been taken to construct naval nuclear propulsion in future. Nothing in the 2015 agreement prohibits the construction of nuclear reactors to power ships and submarines, and those reactors would almost certainly not use nuclear weapons-grade fuel, but they could provide a pretext for Iran to resume uranium enrichment. The Europeans are most comfortable with enforcing new limits on Iran's intercontinental ballistic missile development and testing. Missiles are not governed by the nuclear accord, but rather by a United Nations resolution, whose wording was negotiated by then Secretary of State John Kerry just as the nuclear accord was coming together in Vienna in July 2015. The State Department's talking points said the United States viewed the nuclear and missile programs as inseparable, and said that Iran's development and testing of missiles should be subject to severe sanctions. The Europeans have not gone that far, at least yet. Inspections are potentially more problematic, given the administration's rejection of arguments by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps that all military-related sites are off-limits to international inspectors, but this has not been
These missiles can also be to put satellites in space or put people on the moon. They cannot make that forbidden just to prevent them from making a nuclear weapon. Nor make it forbidden for them to produce nuclear energy. I think that there are already agreements and laws pertaining to this. That the boundaries are already set, basically.
an issue yet. The inspections have been limited to declared nuclear sites, and the United Nations Nuclear Agency affirmed last week that it had been given all the access it sought. Inspectors have said they would try to inspect military sites only if they had intelligence suggesting that surreptitious nuclear activity was underway. Once a deal is struck with the Europeans, administration officials intend to seek approval from Russia, China and Iran. But concerns that such a deal could not possibly pass muster with Iran will not deter them, a senior official said. Russia and China's lack of participation would also matter little, given the stark consequences for Iran's economy if Europe and the United States reimpose sanctions, this person said. While American and European negotiators are working feverishly on a deal to preserve the 2015 accord, there are also preliminary discussions about what will happen if they fall short. Reimposing sanctions, such as blacklisting the Central Bank of Iran, would cause serious problems for European companies, potentially precipitating a split in the transatlantic alliance. But the president, Mr. Dubowitz noted, has the authority to phase in sanctions, which he could use as leverage to give negotiators more time to work out an agreement. He could, for example, impose sanctions on the central bank for its support of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is accused of supporting terrorism, but waive the imposition of so-called secondary sanctions on foreign companies that do business with the bank until the next deadline in July. For the Europeans, who are mostly satisfied with the deal and face no domestic political pressure to pull out, there is little joy in this exercise, but they feel they have no choice but to go along with it. One diplomat compared it to humoring an angry relative who controlled a family vacation estate, and periodically threatened to burn it down. Continue reading the main story.
Continue reading the main story. Whatever. A new chapter of what? The Iran nuclear deal? How many chapters are there? And then there's the clause, the thing.
Washington, President Trump's threat to rip up the Iran nuclear deal has touched off an urgent scramble in European capitals to preserve the agreement, not by rewriting it, but by creating a successor deal that would halt Iran's ballistic missile program and make permanent the restrictions on its ability to produce nuclear fuel. The State Department is trying to win European support for strict new terms that would essentially be presented to Iran as a fait accompli, with a threat of renewed sanctions if it fails to comply. The Iranians have so far dismissed the exercise as a backdoor effort to reopen the 2015 agreement, negotiated by Mr. Trump's predecessor, Barack Obama.
Well, then saying Brexit, Hexit is not going to help either. Exit, Brexit or Nexit. That makes sense. Pooh, I think it's all very complicated. And people want to know what they're planning, sanctions or bombings. That could lead to a world war. For Neuordnung, Third Reich, a global government. For centralization of power. Giving the Jesuits and Masons more power and the people less. So the nuclear weapons get rid of two things, the people and all the evidence that's on hard disks. Yet if it has time travel capability, it may influence the future and the past if you make a CD-ROM with evidence on it. Wie schrijft die blijft, ik claim in het Nederlands. Who writes stays. Contemplating about the non-existence of the soul. Perhaps I should be playing arcade games or masturbating. But I'm eating some pistachios. Very nice. So we know the end result has to be universal peace. With all these weapons of self-destruction surrounding us all. And they have a secret false open universal peace policy, world peace policy. And a secret true universal war policy. according to controlled opposition, flat earther Eric John Phelps of Vatican Assassins. So you could argue I've exposed him as well. I've covered people that claim he's controlled the position and why they think that. Not just because he's a flat earther, supposedly. I think that matters when almost nobody's on the side of the people anymore. Because of the directed energy weapons and fake protests, etc. It's all part of their programming, also psychological warfare. In the court of law. So, if there are lawyers that think I've got a case, denying me my right to press charges of incitement, commit genocide, directed energy weapon torture, or the murder of my mother with directed energy weapons, or dental torture, then please contact Skype Prologic 999. That's me. To create a better timeline, or rather better future. So I'm really just attempting to do the right thing.